So Jenna has the next question. She says, what are your top 3 tips for de-risking the seller-buyer relationship on overall on platforms like Mercari, Poshmark, etc., and obviously eBay in there, right? So my tips, honestly, I don't really worry about it. I know that's not the answer you're looking for because you asked like what are my top 3 tips, but like my top 3 tips are like just focus on selling quality inventory and making customers happy. In my experience, 95 to 99% of buyers are good buyers that you're not gonna have to deal with, you know, any of that BS, like you obviously saw in the Facebook group. But you know, every once in a while, whether you're selling on Mercari, whether you're selling on Poshmark, whether you're selling on eBay, whether you're selling in, you know, on Amazon, whether you're selling in your own retail store, like whatever it is, like there's gonna be those buyers that try to get one over on you, and you can't really do too much to, you know, combat them, other than just not focusing on it and dealing with that problem as it arises, okay? There's 2 good things about that. One, you can always block a problem buyer on all those sites pretty much. There's usually a way to do that, or if there's not a way, I'm not sure if there is a way on Poshmark. I know I've done it on Mercari. I know I've done it on eBay. I don't know if there's a way to do it on Amazon. I don't know if there's a way to do it on Poshmark, but I would venture to assume that there is, so I would just Google if you can probably block a buyer or somebody from purchasing from you on those sites, if you know that they're a problem buyer, right? Honestly, like my best advice is just not worry about it. Focus on selling. Like I said, the majority of people aren't gonna be problem buyers, but if that's an issue, then you can either block them or just, you know, let the platform know. Because I know that you're referencing the one example from Facebook where that buyer tried to or the Facebook group where that buyer basically tried to literally get the item and then ship the empty box back as a return. Like that's obviously a scam. And Mercari refunded, like usually will refund you back what will usually happen is they'll look at both people, right? Like the seller and the buyer, and look at the history of this. And this isn't just Mercari too, like all the selling platforms do this. So like they'll look at the buyer and the seller and be like, okay, what's their history? Do they have a history of like, you know, treating customers badly if they're a seller, or treating customers good? Do they have a good history of treating customers? Okay, great. Then that's like points to you, right, as the seller. And they'll also look at the buyer and be like, do they have a history of like people complaining against them? Do they have a history of scamming? Or are they a good buyer that's purchased, you know, hundreds of items and never had a problem, right? And so what will happen, and what happened in that case, is if the buyer has a history of doing bad things or trying to pull one over, then they won't, you know, obviously authorize the return, and you'll get your money anyway. So these platforms are actually there. They're there to help the buyer first and foremost, but they are actually willing to play ball with you as the seller. And Poshmark has been great for me doing that. Mercari's been great for me doing that. Not so with Amazon and eBay, I usually just refund because I don't feel like dealing with the hassle, because it's going to really hurt your metrics a lot more than the other 2 places. But for Mercari and Poshmark, like you asked specifically, they're really willing to play ball with you as the seller. And most of the time, I would say 9 out of 10 times, I really only think I've dealt with returns, I don't know, maybe 10 to 20 times overall in like the years that I've sold on both of those platforms. But like the majority of those things, what happens is they'll refund both of you, right? They just don't feel like dealing with it, so they'll refund you as the seller if you have proof that you shipped that item and you know you basically sold what you sold and you listed it properly. And they'll usually refund the buyer as well, and then they'll just kind of use that as like a benchmark and be like, this happened previously, and then like that will be on your account, so the support team will be able to see that in the future, right? So I kind of talked in a circle there. I really hope that answer helps you. My best advice, honestly, my top 3 tips are all combined in one. It's like, don't worry about it, because you can't really control it at the end of the day, and you're going to be spending more energy than is necessary really trying to worry about problem buyers, when you should really probably just be focusing on the people. And I get it, right? Like I totally get it's frustrating and annoying that happens. I'm a seller too. I totally can level with that. But just know that those platforms are there. They're gonna help you. They're willing to play ball with them. If you're selling right, you can usually always prove it, and 99.9% of the time, you're gonna be able to get your money back and get refunded if a buyer tries to get one off on you. And then you can just block that buyer in the future. But good question. I appreciate the question, Jenna.